Dan, I'm from Hope Technology, and today I'm going to show you how to bleed the RX4 SRAM Caliper. For this, you're going to need a set of Allen keys, T10 Torx, a flat-bladed screwdriver, a set of bleeding syringes. These are SRAM syringes. Obviously, they'll fit onto their lever and our caliper. You need some dot fluid, and then we've got some isopropyl cleaner, any kind of alcohol spray, just to get rid of any excess fluid. We've also got a rag, and then it's good practice as well to wear some gloves. If you bought the caliper brand new from us, in the box you'll get these two bleed blocks, and you're going to need both of these for the bleeding process as well. If you don't have the bleeding blocks, you can use an old set of pads or a worn set of pads, but obviously you've got to be careful not to spill any fluid, anything like that. So use the bleeding box provided. So first thing you're going to want to do, obviously remove the wheel from the bike. You're then going to want to, before you take the pads out, you can just push the pistons back within the caliper. So you just get your flat blade screwdriver and just push back on one side of the pad. You shouldn't have to push with any excessive force. Obviously you don't want to damage any pistons, anything like that. Then you're going to need your 3mm Allen key to remove the pad pin. You're also going to have to move the pad pin clip that, if you just pull up, can sometimes be a bit fiddly, like that. Put that to one side. Move the pads out of the top, put them to one side. And then using both of the bleed blocks, using the same pad pin as well, just drop those in. So you don't need to really tighten the pad pin in too much, just leave it so it's in a few threads. You're also as well up at the lever side, whichever lever you are using, in this case it's a SRAM, there is a reach adjust. For the bleeding process, you're going to have the reach all the way out, and that on this lever is located under there. You also want the lever to be higher than the caliper. That's just good practice with bleeding brakes. So if it's the rear and there's a big loop in the hose going down, you just might want to lift the lever so it's higher. There can be little air bubbles trapped in the hose. In this case, it's a front, so we're fine. Next, you're going to want to prepare the syringes. You're going to want to fill one syringe about 2/3 full, and then the other about 1/3 full. Once you've filled the syringes, just wipe away any excess fluid. And as well, there will be like a pocket of air in the syringe. If you just hold it up like that, get some blue roll or a rag over the top and just push that air out like that. Just so then the syringe is full of fluid and not a big pocket of air. Next, you're going to want to attach your caliper syringe using a 2.5mm Allen key just to undo the bleed port. Like that. And then you're going to want to put the lever syringe on. So in this case, you're just going to want to pull the hood back, exposing the bleed port on top, and that's a T10. Put that to one side. And then attach the lever syringe. Once you've done that, you're then ready to bleed the system. So once your syringes are on, you can then proceed to bleeding the system. As I say before, this is a real, well, you need to get basically the bleed port as well on the caliper at the highest point as well. So if it is on a rear brake, it is best off to actually have the caliper off the bike and just swing in. Obviously just hanging down on the hose. Obviously if it's a front, the caliper's pretty much sat vertical anyway, so that's fine, you can use that. So to start off with, you are just going to push the fluid from the caliper end up into the lever syringe. and then reverse that process, so push it back, down from the lever into the caliper. Probably want to repeat this process 3 or 4 times, depending if it's, obviously if you've got a dry system like the lever and the lever hose is dry as well, you're probably going to want to repeat this process a few times because there'll be a lot of air in. If you have got a system that's already been bled up and you just add in the caliper, then it will just take a few goes at the caliper end and it will start the bleeding process off. So once you've done that a few times, you're happy there's no more bubbles coming out, push the lever syringe down so the caliper syringe is out. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pull the lever in and then hold it in as well. You can either use a zip tie, or in this case I'm going to use a toe strap just because it's a lot easier. So pull that lever in and just strap it with a strap. If you do have a if you can do it with your hand and then bleed the caliper as well, it's just a bit easier to hold it in with something else. Now we're going to bleed the caliper, so you're just going to basically just real lightly pull back on the syringe and try and pressurize the system. It shouldn't take that much at all, really. If you pull too much, you're just going to pull air past all the seals. So it's just a real light vacuum. And then press down as well. Pull out, press down. Same again once you've repeated this process 4 or 5 times, and then once you're happy that there's no more air coming out the system, you can then go to the next step. Now either loosen the toe strap or zip tie, whatever you've got, but keeping the lever held in. I'm going to push on the caliper syringe and just let the lever slowly come out. Obviously I'm holding onto it whilst I'm doing it. Like that, and then you'll see just some air as well going up into the lever. Push then, so there's about 1/3 in the caliper syringe up into the lever syringe. We're now done on the caliper side. So just getting our bleed port screw ready, because now the caliper's got some pressure behind. Once you do remove the syringe, it will start to leak out. Put that syringe to one side, and now we can focus on the lever side. So first off, we're just going to flick the lever just to try and encourage any bubbles that could be in the hose. And that will as well, you will feel it bite as well, so the pistons will push out against the bleed blocks and you'll get a good feel for the brake. If it's really spongy at this point, you probably want to put the caliper syringe back on and give the system another bleed, but if it's feeling fairly solid, then you know you've got a good bleed. So now using the flat blade screwdriver, you're just going to push those pistons back in the caliper like that, and then just give the lever a few more flicks, and this will just encourage or agitate any bubbles that could be in the system. Once you're happy that there's no more air coming out, the brake feels good, we can then finish off the bleeding procedure. If the brake feels good here, then it'll feel good with the pads and the rotor in as well, because that's where the pistons will be sat, with the pad and rotor in. So if it doesn't feel good at this point, then you need to re-bleed it, there's something wrong. So finally, push the pistons back, make sure they are fully sat and located in the caliper. Then you're going to want to get your lever bleed screw ready. And finally, you're just going to push down ever so slightly on the lever syringe just to pressurise up at the lever, make sure that it's going to be filled with as much fluid as it can be. Same again, once you take the syringe off, it will start to leak out. That is normal. Attach the bleed port screw up in the lever. And now you're going to want to wipe away, clean both the lever and the caliper. Wipe away any excess fluid that's spilt out. I say both times when you take the syringe off, there will be fluid leaking out. If there's fluid not leaking out, you've not bled it properly. It's just a bit of a messier process, but that's the best way to get a good bleed out of the system. Once you're happy that both surfaces are clean, pull the hood back down on the brake. Then you're going to want to remove the bleed blocks out of the caliper. Clean inside of the caliper as well. There will be some fluid inside there. And then you're ready to reapply the brake pads and then reinsert the front wheel. Don't forget your pad pin as well, like that. Basically ready to put your front wheel back in and go riding.